at 2 p.m. in council chambers. First off is the adoption of some minutes. The Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of May 15th, 2017. The regular open minutes of May the 15th, 2017, and the special open minutes of May the 25th. Could we please have a motion to accept those? Thank you. Would be Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, and that, okay, all in favor. Thank you. Business arising from prior, none. Introduction of late items, none. So we need to move that the agenda is approved for this, and we'll go King, Rhodes. Councillor Campbell and Councillor Youngberg were at FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities in Ottawa, and they have not returned home yet. That's why they're not here. No delegations, no water matters, no correspondence. Wow. So we're on to our first bylaws, and that would be Mrs. Dynison.
Is that good? Okay. Thank you, Mayor Merkodoroff. So at the May 15th, 2017 regular meeting, Council made changes to and gave 3 readings to Bylaw 1269 Administrative Fees and Charges and gave 3 readings to Bylaw 1180 Recreation Fees and Charges. These bylaws are now being brought forward for final adoption. Amendments to Bylaw 1269 Administrative Fees and Charges Resolution 1 include the addition of an application fee, extra washroom cleaning fee, and provisions for nonprofit groups applying for special events. Amendments to Bylaw 1180 Recreation Fees and Charges Resolution 2 include park use fees and nonprofit fees in relation to the special event policy and park use permits. Both bylaws are now being presented for adoption. Implications: community, increased fees and charges to use park space. Organizational staff will be required to update the 2 bylaws being affected. Budget: increased revenues from fees and charges. Significant dates should be done as soon as possible. And nothing is applicable for the sustainability. Options: Resolution 1, Option 1, that Bylaw 1269 Administrative Fees and Charges be adopted as presented. Resolution 1, Option 2, that Bylaw 1269 be forwarded back to staff for further review. And Resolution 2, Option 1, that Bylaw 1180 Recreation Fees and Charges be adopted as presented. And Resolution 2, Option 2, Bylaw 1180 Recreation Fees and Charges be forwarded back to staff for further review. And the recommendation is for Resolution 1, Option 1, that the Bylaw 1269 be adopted as presented, and Resolution 2, Option 1, that Bylaw 1180 Recreation Fees and Charges be adopted as presented. These bylaws assist with the special event application process and define the added value of the services the town provides.
Thank you very much. And this has gone on for a while, and we've had first 3 readings. There's just a couple of questions, and I know that that Councillor Youngberg mentioned that she was having some difficulty with some of the things. Is that okay if we just go through some of these? On the bylaw number 1269, under number 4, administrative fees and charges, it says add a non-refundable administrative fee of $25 for any person submitting a special event application. I do understand that that has been changed for nonprofit groups, but it doesn't say that in this particular...
In the bylaw itself.
So it doesn't say it on this page, but it does say it on the further, so that somebody reading that might not get the wrong idea. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, so we can add that in, I guess, to the bylaw there, that the application fee would be waived for nonprofit groups.
On Schedule A, it does say under retail items, it says special event or park use permit application fee, nonprofit groups, no charge. Yeah. So it is in that one.
Yes.
But somebody just looking at this first one might be confused, and I don't know whether that makes sense or not.
Yeah.
On the first page, number 4.
Yes. Yeah, that was it. And the other thing is on the community services special events park permits. I'm just wondering if you could explain the difference between a special event, public event, and a special event community entertainment, because they're two separate things on here, and I wasn't quite sure. Neither
Yeah,
was
and
Counselor
I
Youngberg.
believe that one's with, you're talking about the report for the special event permit policy?
On this.
Yeah, for the special event.
Yes.
Yeah, so I believe I'll be doing a report on that a little bit later on.
Okay, so we'll deal
Yeah.
with this other one first.
Sure.
Okay, so does it seem appropriate to add that on to the line about you have a no charge washroom cleaning fee for nonprofit groups, but nothing there about the $25 special event application?
Yeah.
If
Would
I
that-
can speak to that?
Yes, please do.
I guess the bylaws are written in a very generic form, and we always follow the schedules. If at some particular point in time council wanted to charge a fee for the nonprofits, we'd have to change the bylaw, we'd have to amend the bylaw. And that's different from amending the fees and schedules. As long as the fees and schedules chart we don't charge, that's best reflected that way.
Absolutely, and that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that was not to be confused by people looking at this and saying, well, you said in one but not the other. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine with me. Yeah, Councillor Rhodes.
So I move Resolution 1, Option 1, that Bylaw 1269, administration fees and charges be adopted as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to that? Okay, so we've got that sorted out. All in favor? Thank you very much. And now we have a recreation fees and charges. Is that, you're going to speak to that one? No, that's just the other one.
Yep.
Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
So I'll make a motion based on the wording in option number 1. Resolution 2, option 1,
As presented.
as presented.
Councillor King, you're okay
Second,
with
yeah.
that? Thank you. Anybody need to speak to that? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now the special event policy. Mrs. Dynison.
Okay. So, staff has been directed to update the special event application policy so it does not allow for multi-day private events occupying public space. Staff also updated the fee structure. The town of Osoyoos has always allowed individuals and groups to use park space without charge. However, other associated fees may have been charged for equipment such as the use of bleachers, tables, and chairs. The current special event policy does not differentiate between private or public events, and therefore private events such as weddings have been using park space for multiple day events. In addition, large events tend to use equipment that has the potential to damage park areas. Tents, for example, require staking and could damage irrigation lines or the grass itself. Town of Osoyoos staff are usually required to assist with the provision of municipal equipment such as bleachers and picnic tables, as well as the processing of the special event application form. Other communities charge for the use of their green space and a damage deposit. It would be prudent for the town of Osoyoos to begin charging similar fees for the use of park space and required staff time. Fees should be charged based on the nature of the event and the type of group or individual applying for park use. The current special event policy needs to be updated to include the new set of fees that have been added to Bylaws 1269 and 1180. The Community Services Department currently processes all special event applications, park use permits, and requests to hang banner applications. In many instances, public does not know which form to fill out or that they even have to fill out a form. It is recommended that the special events policy include all of these forms as attachments. This would streamline the application process for staff and would make the information regarding events easier to understand. In summary, the special event policy should be updated as follows. Include fees as set out in Bylaw 1269 and in Bylaw 1180. Include new guidelines regarding weddings at Watermark Beach Resort. Include requirements for applicants paying fees. Allow fees for nonprofit groups to be waived. Allow the Director of Community Services and or the program supervisor to approve special event applications on the condition that they do not have any special requests. Remove the statements that all subsequent special events may be authorized by the town clerk if they are not substantially different from the previous year. That the Osoyoos Cherry Fiesta Committee be removed as an additional named insured from the town's insurance policy, and that the town recommends that the community form an Osoyoos Special Events Society to facilitate the organization of special events within the town. Removal of the list of pre-approved events Include an application fee of $25 as per Bylaw 1269. Include a washroom cleaning fee of $44.50 per occurrence as per Bylaw 1269. Include park use fees for weddings, private and commercial events at all parks as per Bylaw 1180. Include park use permits as an attachment to the special event application package. Allow weddings taking place through Watermark Beach Resort and those wanting to use the park space directly in front of the resort to fill out a parks use permit. Include the request to hang banner application form as part of the special event application package, and include the option of providing an AED. Attached is a draft of the proposed special event application policy and the attachments. Implications. Community, a clear understanding of how to apply for use of park space, and a more streamlined application process for special events in park space. Organizational, a more streamlined special event application and park use permit application process. Budget, increased municipal revenues. And sustainability, assisting groups and individuals with public events may assist in sustaining future events for the community. Options. Number 1, approve the changes to the special event policy as listed and attached to this report. 2, not approve the changes to the special event policy as listed and attached to this report. 3, to make no changes to the special event policy at this time. And the recommendation is option 1, the council approve the changes to the special event application policy as listed and attached to this report. The special event application policy is a vital component to the process of communication between the town of Osoyoos and the groups and individuals who utilize and require our services. Having a clear understanding of this process is very important.
Thank you very much.
And, sorry, I was just going to speak to the policy itself between the community entertainment and a public event.
Sure, please do.
So my understanding is that a public event is a one-time event, whereas the entertainment would be an ongoing, such as music in the park, Market on Main,
Okay.
that type of idea.
So that kind of makes sense. It's just the one-time event is like Cherry Fiesta would be. Okay.
Correct.
Fair enough. Councillor Rose, did you have?
Thank you, Member Kordoff. My question is more of a comment because I like this and I like the way it, and I'm prepared to support it. Most people will not be impacted by anything that we're doing with this. They'll go and enjoy and use that. My concern is somebody planning a wedding and perhaps are not aware of this. I think we've had a couple of incidents in the past. And is there any method that we could use to make sure that this becomes aware to people that are potential users of the area down there? My only concern is somebody planning a wedding with the expectation that they're going to go down there, and you know what happens when Bylaw shows up and says you can't be here. The Hatfields and McCoys kicks in. And it would be probably prudent of us to, I don't even know what we could do. We could maybe let some of the flower shops in the area know. I think we have a couple of wedding planner organizations and that kind of thing. If we could directly let them know, we might be able to stop some future thing. And it's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about, trying to prevent some catastrophic thing happening.
And I agree. I would say 90% of the users, especially for weddings, do contact us before they even go through the process. My concern would be more with the birthday parties or the children's parties and whatnot that happens. I've already made arrangements to meet with Courtney and Nicole at Watermark, because I know that this is going to impact them in their planning. I can also make arrangements to meet with Melissa at Okanagan Rental Center, because a lot of weddings will go through her. And I think it would be a good idea to put information in terms of using our park space in our leisure guide and on our website, just to add to those pages on our website.
Yeah, those are great ideas, and I think they definitely would prevent, and at least we got, we're attempting to, educate potential users of that area as well. So, yeah that's good. Okay.
The other thing that I noticed in here is on one of the statements that you read that you recommend that the community form an Osoyoos Special Events Society, which may take on something like that, the making sure that everybody is aware of this policy. And how would we go about doing that, Mr. Emenko? Is that a suggestion for the next time that we have, or is that up to Sarah, or is that up to us
It's Sarah's idea, so I'll let her talk to it.
Okay.
Well, actually, the idea was to remove that from...
Yeah, I would be removing that.
It's removing it from there. My understanding is that is stemming from a policy from quite a while ago, and that nothing had been done with it at that time, so that's why I was striking it from the policy. Now it's something that we can leave in and something that we can move forward with.
So you're in here, you're suggesting we remove it? Oh,
Correct.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and I
Yeah.
didn't read it that way. I read it
Yeah.
a couple of times, and I thought you're suggesting that we include it. Okay.
No, remove it.
All right, fair enough.
Only because, like I said, it had been sitting in the policy for quite a number of years,
Okay.
and nothing had been done with it. And I think when it was first put into the policy, we didn't have the Recreation Department as it is sitting right now as a Community Services Department. We didn't have the same types of resources as we do now. So.
And I'm wondering if maybe on our website we could just make sure perhaps wait for when Donna gets back, but that we put that on there. Maybe it could even, we'll have Mr. Lacey put something like that in the paper, that obviously we're going to, if people want to have a banner put up and they want to have some kind of a party, they need to come in and see the Sonora Center and see and ask what is involved.
Yep.
Perfect. No, I think that's a good idea. Okay. So, were you going to make a motion?
Yes, thank you. I'll make a motion, the exact wording that's in option number 1.
Thank you.
Yes,
You
sir.
seconding that? Okay. Any more comments about it? Okay. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much, Mrs. Dynison.
Thank you very much.
And next we have Ms. Huang with the climate action review.
All right, thank you. The purpose of this report is to request that Council receive the attached Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program, or CARIP, public report for 2016 for information. The CARIP is a provincial conditional grant program that provides funding to BC Climate Action Charter signatories that is equivalent to the carbon tax that is paid each year. The program supports local governments in their efforts to reduce greenhouse gas or GHG emissions and to become carbon neutral. As one of the signatories, the town is required by the province to report publicly on progress toward meeting climate action goals. To provide an overview, the attached CARIP public report, which is also available on the town's website, provides a summary of actions taken in 2016 and those proposed for 2017 to reduce corporate and climate-wide energy consumption and GHG emissions under various categories, including broad planning, building and lighting, energy generation, green space, solid waste, transportation, water and wastewater, climate change adaptation, and other climate actions. As indicated in the carbon neutral reporting section of the public report, the town's total amount of corporate GHG emissions for 2016 was 403.5 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And this is slightly higher than the total amount for 2015 that was measured as 362.7 tons of CO2 equivalent. This could be attributed to an overall increase in energy usage from main facilities due to the colder winter and the addition of the new fire hall. In addition to achieve carbon neutrality for 2016, the town purchased 404 tons of CO2 equivalent of carbon offsets from an offset provider. In terms of implications for the community, as required by the province, the CARIP public report for 2016 has been made available to the public on the town's website. Organizationally, as a BC Climate Action Charter signatory, the town is required to submit the carbon tax calculation form, CARIP Climate Action and Carbon Neutral Progress Survey, and the CARIP Public Report Attestation Form to the province. The information from the progress survey also needs to be made available to the public in the form of a public report. In terms of budget, for 2016, the town purchased 404 tons of CO2 equivalent of carbon offsets for the amount of $8,484. The total amount of carbon tax paid by the town for fuel purchase in 2016 was $10,801.55, which will be received back as a conditional grant from the province under the CARIP. In terms of significant dates, the town has submitted the required CARIP deliverables to the province and posted the CARIP public report for 2016 on the town's website prior to the June 1st, 2017 deadline. Sustainability. The town will continue to commit to the BC Climate Action Charter and undertake actions to reduce corporate and community-wide energy consumption and GHG emissions. In terms of options before Council, option number 1, Council receives the Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program public report for 2016 for information. And option number 2 is that Council recommends any other action deemed appropriate. And staff's recommendation is option number 1.
Thank you very much, and it's a very comprehensive report, so thank you. Anybody want to? Councillor King?
Yeah, I'll make a motion as option 1. Council receives the Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program public report for 2016 for information.
Thank you. You seconding that? Thank you. Did you want to speak to it? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor McCorduff. I'm curious, I suddenly have a little bit of compassion for Donald Trump and backing out of this international thing. So I was on council when we entered into this agreement, I think, if it's the same one that I'm thinking of, and these numbers are getting bigger, and we seem to be slipping back a little bit. I know that there's reasons why we're doing it, but
Right.
When you do that and there's the offset gets bigger, we pay more, and now I'm having some fairly serious concerns. I mean, they're not huge dollar amounts, but I mean, for our community, it's a fair amount. So I have 2 questions. Who does the calculation for those terms that I'm not even sure what they mean, the TCO2Es? And my second question is how do we do better at this? Which is a profound and has 10,000 answers, I know, but maybe there's a summary you could provide for us.
Yeah, in terms of, to answer the first question, in terms of the actual calculations, that is done by the Director of Finance. So Jim Sacco has been doing that for these years. So he has been using an Excel spreadsheet, and there are, the different fields have been in terms of inserting, the different amounts. So he has been doing the calculations, and the total amount is generated based on the different amounts of fuel that is used by the different facilities, the fuel that's used by fleet vehicles as well. So the Director of Finance has been doing the calculations for that. To answer the second question in terms of how we can do better, there are different options or different ways of offsetting these, in terms of offsetting GHG emissions. The option that we have been using, at least for the past couple of years, has been purchasing the carbon offsets. But there are also other options that could be available to the town. And so these are listed in the public report. So, for example, if there are, let's say if we have organic waste composting, there can be a certain amount of GHG emissions that we can reduce from certain projects or certain activities. So, for example, for next year, let's say if RDO asks if they go ahead with, let's say, the organic waste composting, then perhaps that can be a project that we can include as part of offsetting our total amount of emissions and not having to pay for the full amount to be carbon neutral.
Am I right in assuming that in the perfect world we would have received $10,801 back, but we will no longer receive that because of the offset of $8,484? Is that a correct assumption?
Right. So in terms of the amount of carbon tax that we pay each year, that amount we receive back as the grant. But in terms of, for example, for 2016, the approximately $8,000 that we paid for carbon offsets, that is coming from the town. So that we don't get that amount back just because we are choosing the option of purchasing offsets.
Right.
Yeah.
So we get the difference.
The difference.
Yes.
I agree, it's confusing. Can I ask a question? The fact that last year we put in water restrictions and we ended up using more water, I think because people, rather than watering every day for an hour, watered 3 days a week for 6 hours at a time or something like that. We didn't. Is that shown in here? Does that make a difference?
Well, that is reflected in the actions that that we undertake in terms of moving towards becoming carbon neutral. But in terms of the calculations, that is not necessarily reflected.
Okay.
Just because for the calculations, it's from essentially all of the amounts that's calculated. They're from corporate emissions. So we can only do the calculations that the town generates on a corporate level. So so the numbers are just from, for example, from buildings,
the town owns.
fleet. Yeah, it doesn't. The calculations don't reflect what happens on a community-wide level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I also ask, the fact that this year we have flooding and possible confusion with pump houses and that kind of thing, is that going to make a difference in our calculations this year? Does that affect it? No, it shouldn't? Okay. It is, I think I like all the suggestions and so on that you put in here, but it is a bit of a confusing issue. I agree. Is there anything we as council can do? I think that's kind of what Councillor Rhodes was asking, to cut down on this, or do we look at Mr. Dinwoody and ask him to stop driving around so much and using up gas? I don't know. I just wondered.
Yeah. So
Get a bike.
it would be good if we can reduce the total amount of emissions that's generated each year. For sure, that would be the ideal situation. But I think we can also look at the activities to offset these emissions. So I know that, well, at least for the past couple of years, we have just been purchasing the full amount of offsets, to balance out the amounts. But if we can look at other activities or other projects that we can use to at least offset some amount so that we don't have to purchase, the offsets for the total amount of emissions, that can be an alternative as well.
So do we have any suggestions for some of these activities? I'm looking at Mr. Dinwoody.
One of the projects we had on the go this year was the office renovations at the Public Works Yards. One of the things we're looking at is installing solar hot water heating as opposed to the regular hot water heating, so that might be an option to use less energy if we have solar hot water heating. We could also look at installing actual solar panels on the roof, which would generate electricity, which if we buy enough solar panels, we could then sell that power actually back to the grid. We had talked when we were doing the RFP for replacing the roof on Town Hall. One of the options is for, as Councillor Rose pointed out, I think the other day, Tesla now makes a solar paneled roof tile. So that was one of the options that we're hoping people will give us quotes on as to how much it would cost for that sort of material. So if we were to install solar-powered panels on this roof, if we were to replace the roof, that would also cut down on the energy that is used by this building. So,
Okay.
also when we're buying our new vehicles, we have a new truck on the go. Like when that new truck, it has the Tier 4, I think it is now, diesel engine in it, so it's much more energy efficient than the old truck that we're replacing. So there should be some savings, I guess, in carbon in that
okay.
respect, because the emission standards keep getting higher and higher, and so the newer vehicles you have in the fleet, the more efficient they are with why we're operating. So
Okay.
things like that is what we are currently doing. So.
Okay. So I was talking to the gentleman up at up above Desert Park that has a lot of solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
His bill last year was practically negligible. So he was suggesting that we need to, everybody jump on board and get more solar, use more solar energy, which, probably not a bad way to go.
It's just that the solar panels aren't cheap, and
I know.
so they are the quality is getting
Yes.
better.
They're
There's
coming.
quite a difference between cheap solar panels and good solar panels as to how much electricity you get out of them.
Okay.
So if you buy the really, really cheap ones, you get what you pay for.
Okay.
And they don't generate nearly the power that better, more expensive ones do. So, and you have to make sure that they're aligned properly. Part of the problem at the operational services yards is that we don't really face south all that well, and so you kind of have to mount them on the roof at an angle, and we have to make sure that the building is structurally sound enough to actually
Yes.
support the weight of the panels.
Yeah, I knew that was one of the issues, is that if we did it up here
Yeah.
on this roof, we'd have the same concerns, wouldn't we?
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Councillor Rhodes.
But I was going to move option number 1, simply because I don't think we really have much choice. Unless we decide to bail out and join Don in his crusade right now.
Okay, are you?
Yeah, I'll second. I'd just like to make a comment.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd really like to thank staff, because if you have an opportunity to look at the attachment, there's about 10 or 15 pages that actually tell you some of the initiatives the town has taken to improve the climate change here in town. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. And some plans for next year, things that happened this year and plans for 2000. Yeah, so that's good. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
And we'll
Yes.
just run out of, LED street lighting is a big initiative as well.
The
If
LED lighting.
as we replace our street lights or add street lights, they're all LED, so that, but the long-term fix is for the town-owned street lights to go to LED, and that, there's the cost recovery on that is probably would impact this as well. But
Okay.
again, you always have to make that investment.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we go with option 1. All in favor? Thank you very much, Ms. Wong. And now, next is the retaining wall along Magnolia Place. Mr. Dinwiddie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in 2006, the town of Osoyoos widened Magnolia Place at Oleander Drive for safety reasons, as a portion of Magnolia Place was very narrow. The scope of the work included excavating into the boulevard and installing 2 rows of large concrete blocks to retain the existing slope. A small section of the wall near Oleander Drive had 3 rows of the blocks installed. Mr. Moffat has had concerns about the slope of this boulevard area since August of 2008, and the following is a summary of his correspondence with the town about this issue. So on August 5th, 2008, Mr. Moffat sent a letter to the town of Osoyoos explaining his concerns. September 18th of 2008, Mr. Moffat received a letter from the Director of Operational Services informing him of Town Council's decision on this matter. On October 1st of 2008, Mr. Moffat sent a letter to then-Mayor John Slater indicating his disapproval of the town's September 18th, 2008 decision. On April 1st of 2009, a second report to Council on this issue was submitted from the Director of Operational Services. On April 20th of 2009, the matter was discussed at a Committee of the Whole meeting. On September 8th of 2009, the matter was discussed a third time at a Committee of the Whole meeting. On November 22nd of 2010, at a regular Council meeting, Council resolved to uphold the decision of the past Council and that the responsibility for boulevard maintenance remained with the adjacent property owner. On November 24th of 2010, Mr. Moffat received a second letter from the Director of Operational Services informing Mr. Moffat about the Town Council's decision from November 22nd. On November 29th of 2010, another council report was produced offering council some new options to deal with this situation. And on May 18th of this year, Mr. Moffat sent another letter to the town of Osoyoos restating his concerns over the condition of the boulevard adjacent to his property at 4415 Oleander Drive. So as can be seen from the above described timeline of events, this is a concern Mr. Moffat has had since 2008. The various slope stability options that have been suggested to Mr. Moffat over the years, all of these techniques would improve the area's condition. The Town of Osoyoos Good Neighbor Bylaw number 1277 states in section 3.3 the following. Every owner of real property shall maintain the sidewalk, boulevard, and lane adjacent to the real property and without limitation shall A. Remove accumulations of filth, leaves, rubbish, discarded materials, hazardous objects, and materials that obstruct a drainage facility. B. Remove all filth, leaves, rubbish, discarded materials, hazardous objects, and materials from all boulevards and sidewalks. C. In keeping with reasonable standard of maintenance in the area, keep grassed areas trimmed and irrigated and reasonably free of weeds. D. Keep in good repair all driveway crossings. E. Trim and maintain all trees and plantings. And F. Cut, trim, or remove any tree, fence, hedge, or other item that obstructs or could reasonably be expected to obstruct the vision or safety of all pedestrians, cyclists, or vehicles using streets adjacent to the property. If an exception to Bylaw 1277 is made for Mr. Moffat, it would create a situation where other homeowners in similar situations would have grounds to ask for assistance from the town to maintain their respective boulevards. The Operational Services Department does not have either the staff or the resources to comply with such additional requests at this time. Implications for the community. Past council decisions have always supported the idea that the responsibility for building boulevard maintenance remain with the adjacent property owner. Any change to this position would result in a dramatic change in service levels to the community. Organizationally, if service levels are changed to place the responsibility for building maintenance on the Operational Services Department, then additional resources will be required. Budget-wise, possible increase to the Operational Services Parks maintenance budget to accommodate changes in service levels. Significant dates, if additional resources are required for boulevard maintenance, the Operational Services Department would have to determine cost estimates in time for the 2018 budget discussions in autumn of this year. Sustainability, future Operational Services Department budgets would have to be adjusted to sustain this change in service levels. So the options before council are, one, that town council support past council decisions that the responsibility for boulevard maintenance remains with the adjacent property owner. Option number 2 is that town council directs the Operational Services Department to assist Mr. Moffat in stabilizing the slope of this property at 4415 Oleander Drive. And option number 3 is that town council request additional information prior to making a decision. The recommendation from administration is that town council adopt option number 1.
Thank you very much, and thank you for looking up all of past correspondence on this issue. It seems that we just got this letter about 2 weeks ago from Mr. Moffat, and it looks like we hadn't had anything for the last 8 years or 7 years. So I'm not quite sure what precipitated this, other than his concern is perhaps more because of the rain this time.
I think what happened this year is that he has kind of Mr. Moffat has a bit of a flower bed at the top of his property, and because it has been so wet over the past winter and this spring, that he had some Allen blocks there for making this little flower bed. Some of them had fallen down the slope, and so I think that inspired him to ask again about the slope stability.
Okay. The roadway down at the bottom below that is maintained by the town.
Yes.
Yeah. So if there are rocks or stuff on that roadway,
we would clean it up.
That would be cleaned up. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. Sometimes the simplest of things become intensely complicated depending on what side of the fence that you're sitting on. I've been the beneficiary of numerous conversations with Mr. Moffat regarding this circumstance, going back all the way to 2008. And previous questions that I've asked, I don't think have ever been answered, where I have a good understanding of it. At one point, that property had no building on it.
Okay.
Somebody, perhaps maybe Mr. Moffat, I'm not sure of that, decided I'm going to build a house on the top of this mound up there. And he did so, I guess, legitimately and legally, and everything worked well. And then at some point or another, as described in some of the correspondence, the town altered that corner somewhat.
I believe, like I said, I believe that would happen back in...
Yeah, we
I think it was-
widened
yeah, in
the
2006,
road.
we widened Magnolia Place. And when widening it, it would have probably increased the slope
Yeah,
of his property, yeah.
And we placed a number of those large
Blocks.
concrete blocks in there to retain that back. And
Yep.
I'm not sure whether it was engineered. I'm not sure what the reasons are. We would probably never know. But so I have a lot of questions, but I'd like to ask the first one. When we altered that road, did it increase his risk of what he thinks is going to happen? Because continuous erosion will eventually result in his house falling downhill. And I know that's an exaggeration, but that's kind of the way he's looking or viewing the situation right now. It's a bit of an extreme, and I understand that it is, but sometimes you have to explain people's concerns by embellishing the situation somewhat. And if we contributed to that part of it by widening the road, or we didn't widen the road, I think we cut into the bank there to make the intersection more safe, if my memory serves me right, so you could see
Okay.
Oleander traffic on Oleander coming in both directions. When Mr. Doucette, your predecessor, came in, I think he told us that it was not engineered, that we actually just put those up there, assuming that bank would, and I have no way of verifying that, but that's what my memory is telling me right now. Should we not correct that problem? Like, and please understand, this is a question, not a.
Well, I don't know, like I said, I don't know that by increasing the width of that intersection, we really altered the slope of his property all that much. I can see that we probably altered it a little bit. I don't know how wide we altered the intersection, because it was, like I said, unfortunately before my time. So I don't know, and I don't know if Mr. Doucette actually got direction from True Consulting, or whether we just put up the blocks. I don't know if that was the case. I suspect we must have had some sort of interaction with True. They typically tend to be our engineers, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming that somebody at True probably said that if you do this, it would probably, it'll hold up the hill and it should be fine. So I would assume that we didn't just randomly throw up some large concrete blocks and hope that it was okay.
Yeah, that's a good comment.
Do we know?
All
Mr.
I
Michael?
recollect from previous discussions is that that is not an engineered wall. If you put, I think if you put any more than 2 blocks up for a certain length, it then has to be engineered.
Oh.
And the town was avoiding developing an engineered wall.
So maybe if it's only the height of 2 blocks, then it's okay. If you go to 3,
If you go to
then it's
3,
not.
then
Need an engineer.
you need an engineer.
Okay. And apparently maybe we tried to avoid that back in the day.
Well, that's fair enough, and I get that, but I guess that what I've struggled with all along through this is, by doing what we did we increase the concerns that Mr. Moffat has with it? And without doing a forensic audit of every document that we have, I'm wondering if there's some compromise that we could do that would put this matter to rest and make him happy and us less broke.
Well, I was sure we could. I can ask True Engineering now, for example, what would it cost to build a proper engineered wall? But I don't really know if that's going to address Mr. Moffat's concerns, because his concerns is the slope itself. Like, there's always going to be a slope there, because there was always a hill there in the first place, right? So, and he must have known that there was a hill there when he bought
Of
the
course,
house.
yeah, of course,
It
yeah.
was always there. So I think I don't think we would have altered the road to the point where we really dramatically increased the slope. I think he just is, because we can build a really, really high wall, right? And then his yard could be flat, if you put in a whole bunch of fill and stuff like that. But I don't think that's something that we would be wanting to do, and I don't know why, he bought the house the way it was, knowing that that's the way it was. I think his concern is that he wants some sort of treatment for the slope so that so the stuff doesn't start rolling down it. He's concerned that if you put grass, like grass will hold the slope up. The problem with grass is you have to maintain it, you have to mow it. It's a very steep slope for mowing, and that's not going to, he doesn't want to do that. There are other ways to mitigate the slope as well, but the question, if you do it, for Mr. Moffat, then you kind of have to do it for everybody else in town that has these slope problems as well. And I don't think what we did on Magnolia Place was significant enough to cause him any more issues than had we not done anything on Magnolia Place. He would have still had a slope. Had we not done anything on Magnolia Place, it would still been at some sort of a slope. He still would have had the similar type of issues as he's currently having. So I don't think what we did made his situation worse.
Would it be reasonable to, I know one of the options, option number 3, is to request more information. How would you feel about doing that? Is there, maybe there's something that's changed since 2008, or, that might be less expensive or less costly? And I understand all of the implications about, you do it for one, you get to do it for everybody. I mean, I get all of that. But perhaps, maybe this is, it's not necessarily a one-off, but maybe there's a legitimate reason for looking at some options for that.
Well, we can certainly ask. We can certainly explore more possibilities on how to stabilize the slope.
Would it make sense to ask True the next time they're down to have a look at it and make some suggestions, or have they already done so?
We could do that, but it still goes. It's still one of the points of principle that's being argued here is the owner's responsibility for maintenance of their boulevards, and that includes slope stabilization. And that particular house was built. It was made flat. That slope was there. Mr. Moffat controlled some of the area in terms of slope stabilization until it looks like, this is getting too tough to maintain. I'm going to leave it for the town. And I think that's the point of principle to be addressed here, and it has been always that people are responsible for their boulevards and for their slope stabilization, because otherwise we'd be building retaining walls.
Yes.
And, because there are lots of people
next week.
There are lots of people up in the in the golf course area. They have really, really big retaining walls that are holding up those hills, but that they bought the lots, and
they put it in. I guess my concern was if we adjusted it somehow, do we have a responsibility? And I'm wondering if that's
That's exactly what I was going to say. And really nobody knows. The only thing that I'm looking for right now is a simple solution that has positive long-term results for everybody involved. And I don't think, maybe it's time just to take a breath and get an opinion on it. Maybe there's something that we don't know about that we can do that's going to solve the problem.
Well, I'm sure back in 2006 when we widened the road, we probably have some sort of records as to, how much did we move the slope, how wide did we make the intersection. We should have as-built drawings from back in the day. Maybe we could take that information and ask True Engineering for an opinion. Do you think that this significantly changed the slope stability for Mr. Moffat's house? We could ask that question, I guess.
Yeah, one of the other things that I would like to hear an answer to is, was that road altered before you built on there?
Yes,
or
when did you build?
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be, because if it was bought the way it is and built after the road widening was done, that makes a big difference.
I'm sure we can find out from planning and development when the house was built,
Okay.
We could ask that. We could do that.
Just the construction of the house altered the slope.
Yeah. Because he must have he probably has a basement.
Yeah, but specifically the town widening that portion of it.
Because like you said, if the town had already widened the road and then he built his house, the road was already fixed.
That would make
right?
a difference.
That would be valuable information.
We can find that out.
So would you like to make a motion that we...
Okay, well, I'll make a motion based on number 3 then.
That we ask for some more information. Councillor King, are you okay?
Yeah, I can support that. I'd be interested myself when that house was built.
Okay. And getting an engineering report, see what happens.
When would you like that by?
Tomorrow. No,
We've got 2 weeks to the next council meeting.
3:30 good?
I will still be here.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was option number 3, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you very much, Mr. Dinwiddie. We know that you were, it was before your time, but this keeps coming back, so we'd better have another look and see what we can do.
Sure.
Thank you. Next is notice of motion. We don't have any of that, so next is the general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena financial accounts. And so we have general cash requirements of $2,626,772.91. That likely is some things that we've sent to the government or collecting taxes. Is that why? That's such a large amount this time?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we're collecting a lot of money these days.
It could be, it could be that and payments to the water twinning project.
Absolutely.
And some of the other construction projects
Sure.
that we have going on.
Absolutely, good, thank you. Sun Bowl cash requirements of $8,195.47, and those are both for, what do we call it, by consensus, adopted by consensus, and the net payroll accounts of $161,977.63, and that is for information. And next we have, do we need no, we're all done. The CAO report?
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. A couple of the things, or some of the things the administration has been involved in the last couple of weeks, starting first in community services. Some repairs have been done at the skateboard park. The Sun Bowl Arena shutdown is going well. Compressor overhauls, painting, and minor repairs are being completed. They've been monitoring the lake level at the marina closely and been communicating with the operator on site, which had led to the eventual closure of the marina boat launch areas. They've started work on the outdoor pickleball courts. They will have the courts operation in a few weeks, but we'll have to wait to get the courts painted and sealed, as the contractors are very busy at this point in time, and they're in the process of training staff with the new software Book King. And in corporate services, municipal ticket follow-up, letters out to violators, license information and other stuff, a discovery request for information on court cases for municipal, disputed municipal tickets is happening right now. Annual report was completed and prepared for printing and distribution, and information was received on a sample RFP for towing so that we can work on that. Interviews were conducted for the summer playground coordinator at the community services, and also shortlisting and interviews set up for the playground leaders. Unsightly properties continue to take up a lot of time. A lot of time was spent by our Director of Corporate Services, Jeanette Van Yenen, on emergency management, because that's one of the many hats that she wears. So over the last 2 weeks, she's been in constant contact with the emergency coordination call center, and also with council and everybody else in the community, as we tried to get out as much information as we can on rising water. Also coordination of the forestry crews that came out here, and we're doing the sandbagging and also site area locations for sandbagging. So it's been a hectic 2 weeks for our Director of Corporate Services in that area, and she's done a wonderful job for the town. In terms of finance, the property tax notices are out, so come July 4th, the bills must be paid, and so just a note to people to please, that we have a number of different ways of making payments. You do not have to line up on July 4th. You can pay online. You can do lots of, you can do advanced checks, and lots of ways to avoid the rush. And processed for freedom of information requests in 1 month for one individual. And in Public Works, They relocated irrigation lines at the outdoor tennis courts to accommodate the construction of the new pickleball courts. Mowing continues at all our major fields. They installed the hanging flower baskets throughout downtown, preparing flower beds, and various types of irrigation system repairs throughout the town. And, of course, assisting in various special events. Busy time of the year for us that way in terms of medieval days, cactus jalopies, and also I've been working on flood preparations and in terms of helping the forestry crew as well as doing some sandbagging themselves. Myself, I took a little bit of vacation, also had the opportunity to attend the Canadian Administrators Conference, and again, it never ceases to amaze me when I travel, when I hear from other people about the virtues of Vesuvius. I met many people who have been here, are coming here, or want to come here. So we continue to carry a banner not only locally, regionally, provincially, but also nationally as well. And during that course of time, I was in constant connection with our staff, who were doing a great job on keeping the town dry. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. And, of course, we offer Canada's warmest welcome, and so it's nice to know that people all across the country feel that way. So could we have a motion, please, to receive that report? Thank you. Got that? 1, 2. All in favor? We don't have a choice today, so it's either King Rhodes or Rhodes King. And so we'll go on to councillor reports, and first is Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. I was able to attend the official grand opening of our fire hall. Great event, great day. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm sure Mayor McCordoff would like to elaborate on that a little bit. In addition to that, I want to talk a little bit about last weekend in the Cactus Jalopies car show. There's not enough adjectives in our language to describe how that event has grown and grown in such a positive way over the last few years. I was able to stand up on the stage on Saturday afternoon and say a few words, and it was just amazing to sit there and see all of the people that have traveled to our community for this event, and the stuff that went on around it was just amazing. And the cars were, it was breathtaking to walk up and down there and watch every one of them. Big shout out to JF. He's been a driving force behind that event for the last few years. And, equally as important, once again, the dozens of volunteers in our community that stand up and work at these events for everybody's enjoyment. And the award that the town gave away was for the person with the car that traveled the furthest and arrived here, and he was from a resident of Mesa, Arizona, which is a long, long ways from here. So the message is out there in the car community. This is a great event. We've talked about moving it to other locations in our community and that kind of thing. People come here for two reasons, for the cars and where we have it every year. And it was just absolutely awesome, and there wasn't one person that had one negative thing to say about it. So big shout out to everybody that organized that great event, and thank you very much for that. So that's my report.
And thank you to Councillor Rhodes, who got up and spoke very eloquently and gave out the award. I want to say that as a parent, I watched Kyle DeMello and his crew do flips and motorcycle jumps, and I guess his mother and his grandmother are used to it, but I think it's phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing to watch. So that, I believe, was a contribution from the town to put on the motorcycle show. Amazing job, and thank goodness it was a nice day. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also attended the open house at the fire hall, and really want to thank the volunteer fire people for the great event they put on, different activities for the children to do. It was just amazing to see such a big crowd out there. Also with the Cactus Jalopies, I don't think I've ever seen the event this big in history before. My understanding, there was over 350 cars. Area 27 was open. The cars all drove around it. They were excited. All the hotels were full. And also continuing on of the event for the drag races on Sunday, I think they set a record also because I had never seen as many cars up there as they've ever had. And with that, I'd just like to mention that Destination Osoyoos has their AGM this Wednesday at 2:30 for people that might be interested or belong to the association.
Good. Thank you very much. Well, it's been kind of a busy couple of weeks for all of us, and a couple of things. I believe that the Cactus Jalopies, which is 365 cars, is what I believe I heard, and it's the 12th annual. So it seems to improve every year, get a little bigger. The South Okanagan General Hospital was, it was the emergency department was going to close down. Fortunately, and it caused a great deal of concern with people. Fortunately, there were people, doctors that were able to cover the shifts, and so we didn't have that. But I just want people to know that that Mayor Hovanes and I did meet with MLA Larson the other day. We are quite concerned that this type of problem, we don't want it to continue. We'd like to be helpful in finding a solution. So please know, everybody that's listening, that we will continue to work on that and find a way to keep our emergency department open at all times, but it is a very confusing issue. It was Tim Hortons Camp Day the other day, so I was there in the drive-through, helping a young lady who works at Tim Hortons, who I just have to say, her name's Alex. I was so impressed. She is, I think, 25 or 26. Started working at Tim Hortons when she was 15. She continues to work there. She's very positive, works hard, and in 10 years, from working at Tim Hortons and working hard, she has bought her own condo, she has her own car, she's totally self-sufficient, and I was extremely impressed with the work ethic of this young lady, and it just shows that if you find something that you like to do, you can make a difference. And I phoned the principal at the high school and said, I don't know whether you've got time or not in the next month, but this young lady would be a very good person to have and come and speak to your grads, because she was such a positive role model. I also attended the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society AGM, and they do have a new executive there, very gung-ho group. They have put up signs around town about Love Our Lake, and they go out with a boat testing the water, and there are several people involved in that, and fixing up the boat and getting it ready to do that. So I think it's great. They're a very, very keen group of people in this town, and we certainly wish them well. The fire hall opening was really an amazing event. And because some of our staff was away, and our councillors, Councillor King and Councillor Rhodes and I were there, we were at the grand opening. I can't say enough about all the volunteers, a lot of our staff, plus the firemen, and you know, they just did an amazing job of showing people what they can do. They had people coming out of the windows. They took apart a car with the jaws of life. They putting out fires. And of course the big draw was a free lunch. So there was hot dogs and hamburgers. It took me about 2 hours before I could get in line and get one. And it was really, really well done. It was a perfect day, and so we just want to thank our volunteer fire department for putting on this amazing event. And the other thing I want to say is the last 2 weeks we've been certainly dealing with flooding issues, and I've tried to be in quite often to support things, help where I could. I know that our staff has done a terrific job of getting signs up and things in the paper, and Miss Van Vienen has just done a stellar job working nights and weekends and everything else, as well as our fire chief, Rick Jones, who took on the responsibility of going down and getting people working, and the forestry workers that were there, and he just spent a great deal of time doing things for the town. Mr. Dinwoody, Mr. Zackel were also really, really involved, and I know Mr. Romanko was away, but he was checking in often on his phone, even though he probably, his wife said, put it away, you're on holiday. But, you know, I just can't say enough about the people here, the staff in this town, and to do what they did, and kept up to date with the newspaper and providing information to Global and to all of the news outlets. And fortunately, the lake level has come down a little bit. We are definitely not out of the woods yet, and we think that anybody who has sandbags, and there still are some available because they spent all last week filling up sandbags. Some of the public works people were there with the machines and so on too, helping. And please don't take your sandbags down. Go online, asuyas.ca. There's lots of information on there about lake levels and how we're dealing with things. We do know that that Okanagan Lake is quite high still, and continues to be. We are going down slightly, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next month or 6 weeks. So please be sensitive. I certainly appreciate the fact that we haven't had any speedboats out on the lake. There are a few fishermen and stand-up paddle boards, and that's perfectly all right. But everybody works together, and it's a great community because there's so many volunteers that got involved with this. I do know that one day Mr. Zackel and Miss Van Vienen were delivering sandbags to Barbara Lodge, who lives down near Legion Beach. She's the very, very low house, and some people from the high school and Mrs. Hilson's family were down there putting them out for Mrs. Lodge. So, wasn't your family? The high school. Well, we certainly appreciate what everybody has done to try and make this a safe community. And I saw in the paper the other day that the mayor in Penticton says we are open for business. And guess what? Asuyas is definitely open for business, and we hope that people will continue to come here and enjoy our amenities and our hotels. Maybe not the beaches so much yet, but there are a few around, and lots of other things that we can do. So thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody. And could we have a motion to close the meeting? Thanks, Keith. King Rhodes. All in favor. Thank you very much.